Short track racing is a new discipline that's been introduced to our World Cup series. It happens 2 days before the cross country, and it's short, it's only 20 minutes, and it's extremely fast. The track is usually only maybe 1 kilometer long, so you can enjoy the whole atmosphere in one area and see all the drama and the action. In 20 minutes, we usually get around 7 to 10 laps, so it's quite short. It's usually more wide open so that riders can move around, attacks can happen, and there's not as much of a technical feature, it's more tactical and power. So often they are taking the first 800 or 900 meters of the cross-country race and they're trying to mold in a shorter track. The toughest part of a short track circuit is definitely the start, and then around that 14 to 16 minute mark, because that's when all the fatigue has set in and then you're going to start to see attacks go and attacks stick. You don't want to miss any opportunities, so you're trying to fight through the fatigue and stay on the gas and not let brakes open up.
Fires back on it then. Well spotted by.
So there's very little pacing in short track because it's so short, and if you let up a little bit, gaps are going to form and you're going to get left behind. So you're going to your max heart rate, your max wattage right from the start, and then it becomes a bit tactical. Sometimes there's aerodynamics involved, and sometimes teams are starting to incorporate some team tactics a little bit. But because the cross-country start line is dependent on the results from short track, there is still that every man for themselves kind of element, and everybody wants to get the best position possible so they get the best start position in the cross-country on Sunday. So cross-country mountain bike racing is a 90-minute race. We generally do 6 to 7 laps for the women, anywhere from 110 to 150 meters of climbing each lap. Generally, you're racing upward of your max heart rate within 10-12 beats. So for me personally, I race at 202 heart rate. So I'll be averaging about 191 average heart rate for the whole race. So you can still tell that it's still full gas from start to finish. The start of a cross country is actually more important than the short track.
31 riders in the field, 34 nations represented.
Because the short track is wide open, you have lots of time to move around, whereas the cross country is usually equally as fast as the short track, but then there's always a spot short after the start where it pinches into a single track. So if you get stuck behind in 20th position, your first top riders, they're riding the speed that they need to be riding through a section, whereas you're caught up. We call it bottlenecking, where you're basically taking 50 riders and sending them into single file. It just creates this chaos and you lose a lot of time. The single track, often we'll see really technical rock gardens or route features, and I think watching on camera you think that's maybe a recovery section, but it's quite the opposite, because we're climbing at max heart rate, but then we're trying to equally attack the descent because there's so much time to be gained or lost in those sections. Recovery for a cross-country race is always very important, and even more so when we have weekends back-to-back. Energy management, everything has a play. Nutrition, sleep hours, travel, everything has a very big effect on the athlete to be recovered in time for the next week. It's so important. It's equally as important as the training itself.